Longhorns have picked up a borderline 5-star offensive lineman. Brandon Baker from Modern Day High School in California commits to the Longhorns. Long awaited. It finally goes down. It's big, big news for the Longhorns, who pick up a super blue chip prospect on a Sunday night, one night after beating Baylor and going 4-0 on the season. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Jason Sukumel. Do us a solid. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, do all of that stuff that we ask you to do all the time. Jason, your initial thoughts on a really important and big commitment for the Longhorns?
Yeah, you said borderline 5 stars. I mean, he's ranked number 28th nationally on Rivals. If he holds that position, he will be a 5-star. So, I'm basically considering him a 5-star commitment. Huge day for Kyle Flood, huge day for Texas recruiting, Texas offensive line recruiting. We've seen Flood bring in elite talent before, and this is just another one to kind of keep reloading that pipeline. He plays right tackle for Modern Day, one of the powerhouse programs in the country. Ironically or interestingly, Texas has Modern Day's left tackle coming in next weekend for an official visit. DeAndre Carter, so they'll try to maybe go double dip out there. But yeah, just a big, big win. And, I was watching this film earlier today again. Just does a lot of things really well. I mean, he like I was talking to Adam Gorney about it too. He just you don't see him ever really get beat. He's maybe not the most physical, biggest mauler type, but he's always in a good position. Never seems to have a problem handling his assignment. This is one catch that we've kind of been waiting for it to pop, right? We've had our future cast picks in for Texas for a long time. Just glad it's finally over. We can kind of scratch that one off the list. And now we've got a couple others that we think will happen at some point. We always try to write our stories ahead of time whenever we can. I'll be honest, on Brandon Baker, I put my future cast pick in. No, I'd have to look. It wasn't super long ago. About 2 weeks ago. I actually didn't write my Brandon Baker commitment story till this morning. So I was like, well, I better go ahead and get that sucker written. You're ready for 8 o'clock. But just a great win for Texas. Anytime you beat out Ohio State, Oregon, even Nebraska was in there. Florida State was a finalist. So anytime you're out recruiting those types of schools for a 5-star talent, that's a big day, a big recruiting day for Texas.
Yeah, you put your future cast in on September 12th. I put mine in on August 13th. I think I've had the instant analysis ready to go since at least August 13th. It actually took me a little bit. I don't know when I wrote it, but I had a Sunday night. I was ready on a Sunday night because I went and pulled it up, and sure, it's still Sunday night, so we can just I don't have to change anything.
I've got stories written from back in like June that I'm going to have to go back and freshen them up at some point. But it's just always nice when you get to use those stories you have in the can, right?
Yeah, I mean, I literally didn't have to freshen it up at all, so I'll take it. You mentioned the rankings, so 24/7 has him ranked as a 5-star, number 24 overall nationally. Rivals has him ranked the second highest as a high 4-star, number 28 overall nationally. Like you said, they're going to have 32 5-stars when it's all said and done with Rivals. So if he holds that position, he's going to end up at 5-star. ESPN has him at number 39 overall. On3 has him at number 49 overall. Everybody likes him essentially as a national top 50, a true super blue chip type prospect. And Jason, one of the reasons why this is really big for me is that after Kyle Flood has the big 2022 recruiting class with DJ Campbell and Kelvin Banks and, the 7 offensive linemen in that class, but 2 of them were 5-star level players. Both of those guys already starters on the offensive line for Texas. Last year's offensive line class, just okay, if we're being completely honest. They may get a player or 2 from that group, but not this. It wasn't a group anywhere near the level of the 2022 class. And up until this very moment tonight, you'd probably say the same thing about the 2024 recruiting class. A couple of solid prospects, but nobody at a nationally elite level. It's not that Kyle Flood was, losing his way, far from it, but you'd like to get one of these every year. And after not getting one a year ago, being able to pick up Brandon Baker tonight means that the Longhorns continue their run of adding elite level offensive linemen in this program. He won't probably be the recruit that receives the most fanfare in this recruiting class, but he's one of the most important.
Yeah, and you're right. We knew last year that 2022 cycle was going to be tough after you took 7 offensive linemen and some truly elite offensive linemen. It was going to be tough to take something similar in that 2023 cycle. 2024, yeah, they needed a guy like this, guy that can come in and maybe slide into that right tackle, maybe even left tackle spot when Kelvin Banks leaves in a year or so. So, you expect Kyle Flood. He's done a great job. You expect him to have these kinds of guys, like you said, maybe not every year, but I think you could moving forward see at least one of these types every year. And I think it's big catch. A, he's a tremendous talent, obviously, right? B, anytime you can go into Mater Dei and get a guy, now Texas, that's 2 classes in a row. They've gotten a player from Mater Dei. Spencer Shannon, the tight end from last year, was in from a Mater Dei product. Now you've got an offensive lineman. They're recruiting another offensive lineman. They're recruiting several players in that 2025 class. I've said it before, Mater Dei, IMG, those are the 2 best programs. If you're going to build a program, you can almost do it just recruiting those 2 schools if you can recruit them well enough. So, this could help open even more doors in one of the best premier high school programs in the country in terms of developing and turning out elite talent. So, just getting a top tier offensive lineman is big in itself, but potentially opening more doors in Mater Dei, hey, that can't hurt. I'll be interested to see. I've got a call into to DeAndre Carter, trying to preview his visit for next week. I'm kind of glad he didn't call me back before Brandon Baker committed. I'm hoping maybe I hear back from him sometime this week. We'll connect, and that'll be a question I ask him. Hey, now that Brandon's committed to Texas, does that elevate Texas's chances of flipping his commitment from Auburn now that he's got another teammate coming to Texas? So, big win from a talent perspective, a big win opening more doors in Mater Dei, the halls of Mater Dei High School.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think there are a couple of, important tentacles to this commitment. The fact that this guy's an incredible prospect and projects, there's a very good chance this guy ends up being an NFL level offensive lineman. Just looking at, he's a super blue chip guy. So typically they hit at about a 50-50 type rate at that position. And, so you're bringing that in, but the Mater Dei thing can't be emphasized enough. They hired Chris Jackson as the wide receivers coach. Obviously his background was strong enough, I think, to get the job without the Mater Dei connections. But the fact that he went to high school there, Sark is clearly making Mater Dei one
Sark's
of the most
kids
important.
went to Mater Dei, man. So what other pipeline do you need? His son.
Exactly. And look, you look ahead towards next year. Jordan Davidson's a guy that might be the number 1 running back in the country. Again, Mater Dei High School. The Longhorns are establishing a pipeline through that high school. It's only getting started. And you look at the next few recruiting classes, 2025, 2026, even going beyond that, it's loaded at Mater Dei. Absolutely,
I think they've offered
loaded.
5 guys from Mater Dei in that 2025 class. Marcus Harris, a top 50 national receiver, was just on campus a couple of weekends ago. So, it's interesting. Mater Dei traditionally, it was almost a foregone conclusion, like back in the day, that those players were going to USC. And that just no longer seems to be the case. Texas really is making some waves there. If I'm putting in future cast picks very early for Jordan Davison and Marcus Harris, I'm picking Texas for both those dudes right now. So, you're not wasting your time. It used to be kind of going out there for out-of-state schools. It almost felt like a wasted time to go to there or St. John Bosco. It just felt like they were going to stay out west, stay in state, mostly go to USC. But that's not the case anymore. So, Texas is doing a good job getting in there and having some success. Excuse me.
Another interesting angle in this is the NIL side of things. In the state of California, these guys are able to work on NIL deals while they're in high school. It's a little bit different than in the state of Texas, where there's almost like a wink, wink. We're not really talking about NIL, but we'll dance around what we're not supposed to do, so that you have an idea of kind of what. Not in California, there's no smoke and mirrors there. Those guys can have conversations, and Brandon Baker really honest during his recruitment when he's done interviews to say, yeah, NIL is going to play an important part of my decision. I had heard as far back as early July that Baker, mid-July maybe, I think it was like maybe the 12th or the 13th, that Texas felt like they had emerged as the leader. I had heard Oregon was out. And I thought what was really interesting from the Texas source that I talked to on this was they weren't quite sure who was the number 2 team. It could have been Ohio State. It could have been Nebraska. But they were pretty certain it wasn't going to be Oregon, which, you know, we talked about this last week on Orangebloods Live. This was a guy that at one point was considered to be an Oregon lock. I mean, I'm looking at his Rivals page right now. There was a guy in the Rivals network that put in a future cast in October of last year for him to go to Oregon, getting you an idea and a sense of just for how long it was thought that Oregon was going to be the favorite. And it feels like once he took that visit, the official visit to Texas in the summer, feels like his entire recruitment changed. To the extent where Oregon wasn't maybe as big of a factor as everybody thought they were going to be. And considering it's September and the Longhorns really started to feel good about their positioning once he took that visit, and certainly by the time July rolled around, that they held the position as long as they did, it is interesting to me because it could have gone, you still took visits, you still went to Nebraska, the other schools still had an opportunity, but it just feels like the Longhorns never let go.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody early on was so sure he was going to Oregon. His brother, you know, I meant to check on that. I can't remember if his brother's like a senior this year, but his brother played at Oregon. Now, they wouldn't be overlapping a whole lot had he chosen Oregon. But, I mean, everybody, it was like a foregone conclusion. Everybody just thought that would be the pick. Texas starts to surge. You know, he came for the spring game back in April.
Yep.
And there wasn't it was interesting that he was there, right? Anytime you get a big time player from out of state to come to the spring game, that's newsworthy, right? I remember stalking him and taking pictures of him, but you know, it didn't like make a lot of waves in terms of conversation. But after that official visit in June, as you said, that's when things really started to kind of flip towards Texas, and you started hearing a lot more about Texas. And hey, whoa, maybe this Oregon thing's not what everybody thought it was. It looks like Texas now is the team to beat. There was a lot of thought that he might commit during the summer.
Yeah.
But you're right. He wanted to kind of take that Nebraska visit, take a little time, slow things down a little bit. So, you know, Texas really surged in, you know, I'd say probably mid to late June, maybe like you said, mid-July is when it really turned Texas's way. So, you know, that's 3 months Texas, or what, I guess 2.5 months Texas had to really hold that position, including with him taking an official visit to Nebraska just last week. So, you know, Texas did a good job just kind of staying the course on this one once they took the lead and really never relinquished it. In fact, only it seemed like strengthened their position, you know, as this thing went on. Now, I know Brandon, he did say last week, he told another reporter, I think it was like Friday, just a couple days ago, like, hey, my mind's not made up. I may make up my mind on Sunday. I don't buy that. You know, like we'll try to get a hold of him this week to kind of get the backstory of how it all came about. But it did feel like Texas really took control of this one going back to his official visit in June.
Longhorns now up to 18 commitments. This commitment will get them closer to the top 10 in the country. It's funny when you look at this commitment list, Jason, Colin Simmons is number 1. He, you know, how big is this? Brandon Baker commits. He's the number 2 rated recruit in this class right now in the Rivals rankings, one of 2 super blue chips. They've got a handful of like mid 4-star guys, but not a lot of guys in the national top 50 yet. Now they got guys lined up, right? They're going after Kobe Black,
Ryan Wingo.
Ryan Wingo, obviously. I mean, they're hoping to close with a flurry, getting Baker today. And who knows, maybe even flipping Carter at some point, and then the bookends of modern day being potentially the future tackles, bookend tackles for the Longhorns. I'm sure they're selling them on that as well as the idea that there will be future modern day guys coming in, plus the NIL. Tonight feels like the first step in the Longhorns going like for the close. You know, if you look at the commitment list, their first commitment, golly, I guess Zena committed earlier this month, but it's only the second since the Colin Simmons commitment. about 6 weeks ago. I would expect business to start picking up now.
Well, I would too. And it's funny when I do these Q&As on Orangebloods every week, I can pretty much write the question myself. Is Texas going to have a top 5 class? And for the longest time, I've been saying, no, I don't think they are. I think it's probably going to be in that 10, maybe even 10 to 15 range or 10 to 5 range. If you're going to get to a top 5 class, they had to get Colin Simmons. They had to get Brandon Baker. They got to get Kobe Black. They got to get Ryan Wingo. They've got 2 of those 4. I feel pretty good about them getting the other 2. That gets them into a top 5 class, in my opinion. Assuming these guys hold their ranking and don't take a tumble in the rankings. I mean, this suddenly, with the addition of Brandon Baker, you mentioned it. Maybe they get Carter to flip his commitment from Auburn. I mean, then now you're looking at, hey, if these dominoes fall the way I think they're going to fall, this will be a top 5 class once again. Be their 3rd in a row. It could be a top 3 type class. Who knows? I mean, they might have some other tricks up their sleeves, Texas as well. Now, that being said, they got to hold on to all the guys they have committed too. They had a couple guys take unofficial visits to Florida this weekend, so they've got to maintain the commitments they do have. But if they can keep adding these types of pieces, this will be another highly successful, highly rated recruiting class for Texas.
And being ranked 3rd in the country and 3rd in one poll and 5th in another, and just continuing to elevate the profile of the program under Steve Sarkisian in year 3 of his reign doesn't hurt either. Jason, before we wrap up, any final thoughts on this?
No, like I said, just kind of glad it was over. I would say everybody always asks, like, oh, you had your story written. When did you know? I mean, you put your future cast in a while back. I put mine. I actually wrote about it in my 3-2-1. I remember, and I said, I don't have my future cast. So I put it in. Just glad to have some conclusion, some resolution. I would say probably coming into tonight, I was maybe I almost used the dreaded 85. So let's say 86% sure that it was going to be Texas. But I did not know definitively catch that it was going to be Texas. In fact, I got a text today from someone that said, hey, are you going to put out your hey, reminder, Brandon Baker commits tonight, which is kind of my bat signal that, hey, Texas is going to get a commitment tonight. And I said, no, man, because I feel pretty good about it, but I don't feel great. I don't know for certain 100% that it's going to be Texas. So held a little bit of excitement, but just a really big pickup for Texas, for Kyle Flood, possibly even, like I said, maybe has a ripple effect to some of these other prospects in modern day. So just a big time pickup for Texas and an exciting moment for Texas fans.
Yeah, my number one source on this never flinched on Baker's. Always felt like Texas was exactly where they wanted to be with him. It'll be interesting to see where this goes from here. What happens with Ryan Wingo? Will they be able to close with Kobe Black? We think potentially yes for both of those. But today, first piece of the puzzle for this final close in the 2024 recruiting class is done. Are you excited? You got a borderline 5-star offensive lineman. Hit that like button. I mean, my goodness, if there's ever a reason to hit the like button, now is the time to do it when the Longhorns get the second biggest commitment in the 2024 recruiting class. Subscribe to the channel. We're over 17,200 on our way to 1 billion. And oh, by the way, make sure you get your butt on over to Orangebloods. Jason's got a story written. I've got my instant analysis in addition to the video coverage we've got right here. Wall-to-wall coverage. I got my 10 thoughts from the weekend out tonight. So a lot of stuff to look at as the Longhorns get ready to go into the Kansas week, which suddenly is a ranked matchup and a way more interesting game than maybe I think any of us would have thought going into the season. So now is the time to jump on every single thing burnt orange related you can get. Orangebloods has you covered. For myself and Jason Sukumel, you guys have a great rest of the Sunday night. Have a great Monday morning. We'll see you tomorrow. Anwar Richardson, Travis Gailey will be the first up. He and Nash Talks Texas will have obviously Get Your Horns Up, and we'll just have content all day long on Orangebloods Live. Thanks for watching this video. Again, you guys have a great night. Later.